On the edge of real and cyberspace, there's one place you can go, and you found it! Welcome to KWTV, the one and only screencast that tunes tech into your way of life and lets that technology work for you. My name is Nightwise, and for the coming episode, I'll be your host on this episode of KWTV, Season 3, Episode 1, where we review the HTC One X. HTC One X, well, it didn't really sound really cool, but it is a very cool phone. This is one of HTC's top-of-the-line models in their new war on Android, or war with Android actually, sporting a 1.4 GHz Tegra 3 processor, 4.7 inch screen, and actually a very nice looking casing. Very nice looking phone. We are going to take a look at the One X and see what it does and feels like. But there's one thing for the One X. Because the One X has kind of a strange name. I keep messing up the name during the review. I've always been used to HTC products having funky names, like for example the Desire or the Hero or the Titan or the Cha-Cha or the Wildfire or the Desire. The device just called the One X or 1V, whatever one you refer to, is kind of strange. So I do tend to mess up the naming of the HTC One X, and every time I do so, you can have a drink. We'll make a drinking game out of it. Let's see if you're sober by the end of the review of this HTC One. Not Desire One, not Wildfire One, just one. The One X. First impressions of the HTC One X. Well, the first thing that you get to see when you buy an HTC One X is the box of the HTC One X. And the box of the HTC One X is, well, different. This is HTC's approach at an eco-friendly box. It's made out of, I think, recycled paper. It feels a little bit like pressed paper or cardboard, and it does not have a glossy finish. So this is really ecological cardboard that is somehow recycled, but it is a little bit prone to smudges, as you see. This might give you the first impression that what you actually bought is cheap, but the price of the HTC One X will tell you that it's not cheap. But it's, I don't know, it's kind of a nice touch to protect the environment. Never mind that the battery inside of this phone is nickel cadmium, and it will probably pollute the planet more than anything else. At least the box is made out of recycled cardboard. Once inside, we have the HTC One X with a nice text on the protective cover. I'm the one you've been waiting for. There are several ones in the HTC series, but this is the One X. And what's inside the packaging is, of course, HTC's standard power to USB power adapter and the USB to micro USB cable, which comes bundled with just about any HTC smartphone these days, and a pair of earbuds. Now, I've been looking for a special marking on these earbuds, whether this would be a special brand or anything, but they are just standard run-of-the-mill earbuds, of course, with a little microphone attached to use them as hands-free calling earbuds. What else is in here? Let me see. Oh yeah, paperwork. How you put the SIM in. It carries a micro SIM, by the way, which was something I didn't expect that would happen. But nonetheless, it's explained in several languages how you should do that. There's also a little adapter that comes with it to open up the SIM card slot on the HTC One. Now, the phone itself, just remove the packaging here. HTC One, first impressions, look and feel, wow. This is a very well made phone. It once again feels very sturdy in your hands. It's nice to hold. It's not thick weight wise. It's really good. And the finishing on this little device is pretty, very pretty. The one thing that I did notice is that the camera on the rear end is raised, as you can see again, but the glass of the camera is actually at the same height as the raised surface of the camera. So if you put this phone down like that, you will actually put it down on the glass of the camera. And this is a pretty new phone, and you can already see that there are some stripes or smudges here on the screen. So having a good cover that raises it, that raises above this, well, lump, as I can call it, is perhaps a good idea. Now, speakers on the back. This is a Beats Audio by Dr. Dre. These things are probably the battery indicator. It's a good question why they're there. HTC logo, beautiful brown coffee color, by the way. On top we have the slot for the SIM card, which is inserted at the top and not at the back with the whole battery thing. We have the headphone slot here, and basically that's it. Charger is, the charging plug is here, and that's it. This is a solid piece of phone. There's no cover to click off. This is it, which does tout the fact that the HTC does not have, the HTC One X might not have a removable battery. So what else is there? Big volume button here at the side, and of course the power button here up top, and front-facing camera here. Now, activating the phone, beautiful, beautiful screen, very nice resolution, very nice brightness, and as you all can already see, a very responsive phone. The one thing that I immediately noticed is at the bottom, we only have 3 hardware buttons. There used to be 4, and I'll show you. I have an older HTC One HD here, where we have the search, the back, the menu, and the home button, where now there is only the back button, the home button, and the applications button. This applications button puts all of your different screens together. The home button takes you back to the home screen or in kind of an expose mode. And the back button, just when you click on something, it just goes back. So first impressions of the HTC Desire. I always mess them up because I still think of Desire, but it's just the HTC One X. Well built, kind of iffy packaging, but surely a very interesting phone to look at. So next up, we'll take a little bit of a closer look at the specs of this baby. First thing that you immediately have to notice about this phone is its screen. With a 1280 by 720 resolution, it is an HD ready, not full HD screen, and a 4.7 inch screen width gives you pretty much real estate to look at actually. Screen's very bright, you can hardly see the pixels. Actually, it's not a retina display or anything like that, but still very nice when it comes to the resolution. And what you feel when you're holding this phone is that it's a long phone. It's not a big phone, it's not a wide phone, but it's a long phone. It kind of feels longer in your hand than other phones. It's not, the width is great to grasp, but the length is kind of iffy. Now, why do I say this? This always is an issue when you want to compose some text, for example. Try to punch up an email here. Will give me a wizard. See if I can punch up some text somewhere. And what you have is, great, can't get a text thingy here. What you have when you operate the keyboard, here we go, is that you need to do this in a single hand operation, which is kind of, I don't have very big hands, but it's kind of hard to grasp because the phone is a little bit long or high. It does tend to tip over in your hand. Its point of weight is here, and this makes entering text single-handedly a little challenging, but when you do it double-handedly with 2 hands, it's great. Once you go into portrait mode, the phone is also nice to grasp, but you do see that the width of the phone does make inputting text well, a little bit more convenient because you have more space for the buttons. Now, spec wise, what do we have here? We have a quad core, this is quad core phone, NVIDIA Tegra 3 processor inside this phone. It comes with 32 gigabytes of internal storage. It's a quad-band phone, so it works just about everywhere, and it has the Sense UI 4.0. It has all of the, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and whatever you want to, but what does differentiate this phone from the rest of the HTC line is indeed the quad-core Tegra 3 processor. Does that really make a difference? It kind of depends on what you do with the phone. This is not a gaming machine, it's still a phone or a communication device, as we might say. But it does make for a fast and crisp experience when using the phone. The rear end camera here in this little raised bubble, which does worry me a little bit, comes with a built-in flash, as you can see. It is an 8 megapixel camera with the ability to record 1080p video, and it's a little bit raised on the casing, as you can see. Good flash. Also comes with a front-end camera. I believe that one is about 5 megapixel. Not too shabby, not a bad camera actually. I'll see if I can activate the camera here. Let me see. So many icons here. There we go. That's the front-facing camera. I'll put a little bit of a resolution here in front of it so you can see. So that's the front-facing camera. As you can see, the screen is beautiful on this little thing. And let me see if I can switch cameras here. And there are special effects there, but you can also use the rear camera. Let me see if I can punch that up for you. Camera, front-facing camera. It takes a little bit of a time to switch, and there you have it. That's the front-facing camera. Not too shabby actually, a pretty good resolution, but you do see that it does need its light. You might not be able to see it in the video, but I can already see a lot of noise here, not the noise coming from my mouth, but the noise in the image. So the front-facing camera, if we can call it like that, does require a little bit of light to go. This is a 1 megapixel camera, which couldn't be right. It says 1M, but that can't be right. I'll check up the specs, but I think it's a 5 megapixel camera, VGA resolution. This baby, on the other hand, is an 8 megapixel camera with HD resolution. Camera is pretty fast to respond, so if I just press away here, you can see the pictures coming. This is important when you want to use your camera phone to be, your point-and-click phone. So the resolution and the speed both has to be right. It doesn't help if your camera is not really fast to respond, but does take big HD pictures. So it has to be a little bit of both. Next up, we'll take a look at the operating system on this little HTC phone and see what's running underneath the hood of this beautiful user interface. Before we talk software, I do want to mention one thing that I noticed. This is a Dr. Dre or Dr. Beats Audio phone, which means that it will have superior audio quality and stuff like that. And I have a pair of Dr. Dre Beats headphones, so I'm going to try them out with this baby. But what does come out of the box is standard HTC earbuds. So Beats Audio quality phone, small speaker, standard earbuds. Beats Audio, standard. Beats Audio, standard. I would have had a pair of Beats Audio headphones with this, but that might have raised the price even more. But never mind, that's just a small detail. What I do want to say is that the operating system on this baby is Android 4.0.3, which is a far cry from some of the 2.3 or 2.0 versions of Android. Android has really matured, and if you have the processor to run it, it is a really nice operating system to work with. Maturity is coming to Android, and if the operating system does not prove it, the fact that the operating system is combined with a decent processor on this phone does let Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich shine. If you run 4.0 on a processor that isn't as powerful as this 1.4 gigahertz quad-core Tegra 3, you will have a little bit of a sluggish experience, and it all kind of might feel herky-jerky, which isn't the case on this phone. Sense UI on here is the, let me see what version that I said is the 4.0 Sense UI from HTC, which is an extra layer on top of Ice Cream Sandwich. And what does immediately spring to mind is that this phone is pretty advanced in the HTC line, as there are phones out there like, for example, the Cha-Cha or the, let me see, Wildfire, that still have 2.3 on there. So it's kind of strange to see that HTC has such a big difference of models and operating systems in their same line. There is a big gap in between those two. When you want to operate your Ice Cream Sandwich, your Android operating system, it is a little strange to only find 3 hardware buttons, because that means that the search button or the back button, kind of the search button, is always in a different place. Or the options menu, the menu or options button is always in a different place depending on the application that you're in. Most of the phones these days will probably only have 3 hardware buttons at the bottom, but yeah, it's kind of strange to get some consistency there. Overall, operating system wise, fast little phone. 32 gigabytes of storage, no noticeable SD card slots here. Now I might be able to pry off the casing, but I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to, because there's absolutely no lid somewhere at the back to pry off this back casing, which does let me believe that the HTC One does not do SD cards, it just does the SIM card, and that is it. No replaceable battery on this thing. Ooh, that does make it a little bit of a tricky thing, because the price of this phone is not all that low. We'll take a look at pricing and take a look at what you get for that money in the next chapter. What makes me think if a phone is worth to buy is not the functionality it has, not the screen, the processor and everything, but it's the combination of all of those hardware and software specs of the build quality, the packaging, the availability, the software updates that you can get, the camera quality, the overall I want this phone factor. What kind of makes that worth it for me is always directly tied into one factor: the price. This is not a cheap phone. This is one of HTC's well, more expensive models, coming in at 550 euros or about that price, depending on where you get it. 550 euros is not a lot of money for a phone as exquisite as this, but it's still a lot of money. HTC has competition in this price range and in this model range. They will have competition from their own phones. The HTC One V, which is a slightly smaller, lighter model, not with a dual core but with a standard 1 gigahertz processor, comes in at about 400 euros and also brings Ice Cream Sandwich to the table. Now, if you're not a heavy user and you don't play games on your phone, you might just not be able, might not notice that your processor isn't this fast, especially if you've never played with a quad-core phone. So if you're going out and you're going to buy a phone with Ice Cream Sandwich on it and you want an HTC with a nice build, the chances are that you might go for the HTC One X because you're a geek and you know what a quad-core processor is and you want a big screen, or you go for a well, slightly smaller phone like the HTC One V, which does bring also some nice Ice Cream Sandwich flavors to the table, but doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. Now, 550 euros, competition from their own brand, but also competitions from other brands. Of course, If you take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S3, which will be coming out and which also will be sporting a quad-core processor, we don't know anything about pricing there, but if it's close to what the Galaxy S2 at 420 euros will be like, this is actually quite an expensive phone. Now, it's a decent phone if you take a look at the build quality. We take its older brother here, the HTC Desire HD, and you can almost see that they are almost the same size. As you can see, the HTC One X is a little bit less wide than the HD and a little bit higher or longer, whichever you prefer, but is made of the same build quality. It's at 529 euro, at 550 euros, it's only slightly cheaper than the iPhone 4S, which also boosts quite a decent processor. But if you take a look at the difference of the screen size, it's amazing. I mean, here the screen starts at the same height in both devices, and where the iPhone physically stops existing, there is still screen real estate left on the HTC One X. So compared, you can definitely see that the iPhone does need to kind of upgrade or change if you take a look at the screen sizes of the competition, but still it's about, I think, 70 euros more expensive than the HTC One X. Overall, pretty pleased with this phone. Kind of worried that you can't switch out the battery, but overall, for 550 euros, it's an expensive phone. It's a well-built phone, and it's a fast phone. If you have the money to burn and the money to spend, go for this guy. If you are on a budget, take a look at the competition, or take a look both internally with HTC with the One V, slightly smaller screen. We'll try to review that in the next KWTV, or the Galaxy S2 or S3, which when it comes to screen size surely match up to the HTC One X. So, pleased? Yes. What would I change? Earbuds. Decent earbuds. Packaging. Nice, eco-friendly, tree-hugging friendly. Looks kind of cheap, but the phone and all is pretty okay. Well, that's all we have time for on this episode of KWTV, where we've reviewed the HTC One X. Great smartphone by HTC, tad pricey, but I must say I would really like to keep hold of this. I want to thank our guys, our friends at PHC in Eindhoven, who have been kind enough to provide us with this demo model. If you are in the Belgian, Dutch or German area and you are anywhere near Eindhoven, visit these guys. Great services when it comes down to mobile phones and everything that has to do with communications. They do have kind of a crazy boss out there, but you just have to live with that. So thank you to the guys of PHC for the demo model. That's all we have time for this week. As you know, you can subscribe to the KWTV screencast and also the Nightwise.com podcast when you visit our website, www.nightwise.com. You can find us on Twitter at Nightwise, and you can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/nightwisecom. Just visit the website, take a look at where you can follow us and subscribe and get back to us. Feedback@nightwise.com if you want to send us a classic email. And you can also find us on YouTube and Vimeo. So that's it from the end. No, not from the end. It's not the end of Real in Cyberspace. It's the edge. From the edge of Real in Cyberspace. That's all for now. See you guys in 2 weeks for the next episode of KWTV. Till then, let technology work for you instead of the other way around. Bye guys and girls. Bye.